Disaster Talk, where disaster is the talk of your town. I'm your host, Ruama Camp, Executive Director for Grace Community Services. Today on Disaster Talk, we have Mr. Bilal Abdullah. He is a disaster case management supervisor for IGNA Relief. IGNA's mission, why don't you tell us what IGNA's mission is, Mr. Bilal?
IGNA Relief USA is a multicultural organization established to help to develop the communities, as well as the Muslim community, as well as the indigenous community. We're proud to be amongst the list of the first. From my fraternity perspective, I'm an alpha. We always call that being the first. But IGNA also is the first Muslim organization, the Islamic Circle of North America, to actually be funded by FEMA.
Wow. So
we have made a first. And we're very happy because of that. Our volunteer efforts really led to that. I'm a victim of Hurricane Katrina. We came out of New Orleans, and the first group that we met when we landed in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, was the IGNA representatives that were actually doing the mass sheltering and the mass feeding that was going on in Baton Rouge for everybody.
Wow.
That took place because of Hurricane Katrina. And then the other scenario that came down was about a year or so later, we had Gustav.
Yes.
In Baton Rouge.
In Baton Rouge.
So people come from New Orleans to escape Gustav, and they met Gustav. Mm-hmm. So we had to end up we utilized all 5 of our masjids for sheltering. And we also had to rev up the mass feeding component again. And by that time we had learned our lesson that everybody needs to work together.
Everyone.
I think that word is collaboration.
Yes.
So we learned how to collaborate, and we learned how to deal with our disaster response teams in the correct manner, a little bit better than we had done with Katrina. I looked up one day, we had a whole semi-tractor trailer truck of water. Katrina, a whole semi-tractor trailer truck of water parked outside of the masjid, with people, at least 200 people inside the masjid, with no room to put a semi-tractor trailer load of water. So by the time Gustav entered into play, we had 2 warehouses. And I was blessed at that time to help manage a warehouse.
That's a big responsibility.
Yes, it is. Very big. We had one room as big as this, just with nothing but boxes of clothes, for people that didn't have no clothes. Mm-hmm. So yes, it was a very wonderful responsibility, and we enjoyed that. When Ike hit, I was already working as a case manager in Baton Rouge, and my coordinator gave me the deployment to supervise the Galveston office.
How has that been for you, being a victim of Katrina and now working with victims of Hurricane Ike?
It helps me. It's a great help for me because I can feel their hurt. I can feel what they felt. My wife's brother. My wife has a brother. I have a brother-in-law, if you want to say that, who is still missing. In this 5 years, this is a 5-year history, right, of Hurricane Katrina. And
actually, it's today.
Yes, and he has not been found in those 5 years. And we're not the only family that got that particular issue. But it's the issue of, saying at least if we can find the body parts, we could bury him. And there's closure to that, and we don't have no closure with that. So yeah, when someone walks to inside of my office, I look at this work not as a job. You cannot do this work if you think this work is a job. If you do, really you don't need to be in this business.
That is correct.
This is a mission, and you have to treat it as such. And each person that comes to my office is gold to me. It's a valuable entity. And each one come with a different story. And it's our job as case managers to listen to the story, and from that story to develop a recovery plan the best recovery plan that we can, and to provide them the most expedited and speedy needs that we can give them, you know, those things that they need to recover with.
Absolutely.
And hopefully when they leave us, you know, with the recovery plan that we sit down together on, that they can take that plan and move further and go a little bit further.
What are you seeing, Bilal, in terms of the recovery plan and being able to move forward? I know that we've all had some successes in terms of going to the unmet needs table. The unmet needs table has just been truly a blessing to all of the families who have been able to go there. But what are you seeing? Is it really fulfilling the unmet need, or is it a Band-Aid?
You see, I said, when I first got to the island, one of the first clients I met was a mechanic. We had to meet the mechanic because one of our cars was having some problems. One of the case managers had car problems. And we met the mechanic. One of my friends introduced me to Robert, the mechanic. And Robert came over to the office and opened up the trunk of his car, and his tools was in the back of the car. So, you know, I'm a detective when it comes to doing case management. So I said, Robert, where do you live? I live on the north side of Broadway. So I knew then that there had to be flood damage. I said, well, did you have flood damage? He said, yeah, he had an old rooming house. And I didn't know the history of Galveston. A lot of the old Navy guys, merchant Marines, since they couldn't live in the hotels if they were African Americans, they lived in the rooming houses that the African Americans owned. And they have an old rooming house. They still have an old traditional rooming house. And when you go on the porch, you can talk to Mr. Henry, who's 83 years old. You know, he ex-merchant Marine who still lives at the rooming house. And I said, well, why are your tools in the back of the car? He said, well, because my van that I had, which had all of my tools in it, is in the bay.
Office. That was his office.
It's in the bay. So the situation is that they weathered the storm. He stayed up on the third floor, you know, second or third floor of the building. But the only problem is that the house was so close to the bay until when the surge hit, the surge took the van and all of his tools into the bay. We had another young man who's our janitor right now, and inside of our case management office. We have two offices, so he does the janitorial. And he was told to report to work. He's kind of slightly slow, you know, mentally slow. And, you know, logic would have told me to get off the island if I was told mandatory evacuation. But UTMB told him that they need him at work. So he drove his car to work. And, you know, he had to weather the storm on the fourth floor, but the car, which was downstairs in the parking area, washed off into the bay. And the reason why I'm saying that is because when we submitted our grant proposal for the SSBG grant, we put in there replacement of vehicles.
Much needed.
Much needed. We had about to date, I think our last accounting, we have about 8 or 9 clients that right now lost their vehicles. And you don't always lose your vehicles by the surge. The fact is that if your car is covered with water, and you know, I mean, there is nothing that you can do for that car unless you go to the auction.
And so the insurance wouldn't take care of their car?
No, it's not enough. You know, the average African American did buy a brand new car. It wasn't a brand new car, but at least $5,000 or $6,000 at the auction could have got him a nice $12,000 van replacement or a nice car replacement. And 10 budget reductions later, the only thing that we got at the unmet needs table is $1,500 or 30% of the value of your car. And really, to be honest with you, our agency at this point is looking at a $400,000 shortfall in our SSBG. We've only been able, given all of those allowables unallowables, we've only been able to spend $9,000 of a $450,000 grant.
Wow.
So we're looking at money that might not be spent.
So it would just go back.
I think the dateline is what, September the 30th?
So in other words, what I hear you to say is that we're running out of time.
We are very much so running out of time.
And we have money to be able to help the people.
That's right.
But we're running out of time.
And we're running out of time, have ran out of time.
Wow.
And we do, and at the last community festival, and I was blessed to be a participant in all three, and I'm very happy that you mentioned us.
Oh, yes. IGNA, you guys do such great work.
And, but at the last jobs fair presentation that you all gave, which was very wonderful, we were able to take in 14 potential intakes.
Wow.
But as a residue of those 14 potential intakes, because we had invited an agency to come over there, I think it was called the Health Initiative.
Yes.
And they have the C and A class. From that, just having that additional contact, we was able to deal with a 60 contact ratio from your jobs fair. Brand new contacts for case management services.
Wow.
One of those contacts was my next door neighbor.
Unbelievable.
Who felt that you all ain't gonna take care of me because my income. But we have to keep in mind that disaster case management is not based upon your income, it's based upon your need. And he was going around there thinking that based upon my income, you all ain't gonna help me. My insurance didn't. So I told him, no, you put your name down there, man. And he was at the table and signed up, and the next day brought all the stuff to the office.
Oh, those type of stories is what keeps us going. Because through all of this, we know, both of us know, that you can become compassion fatigued. You can be tired. You can even become weary in well-doing. And we know that that is something we shouldn't become. And so we do have to pray and stay in touch so that we can go through that as well. But I know for you and for me and for all of you watching, you have a heavy burden right now. We're running out of time. And it's 2 years later. Today it's 5 years later. It is anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. And it takes not only a village to rebuild a town and a community. It takes time. And so we all are being advocates, wouldn't you say, Bilal?
Yes.
That we need more time to get the money to the people. And it is a burden when you feel that all you're doing has to stop because you can't get the money to the people.
And it's not always the money. I mean, the CDBG scenario is not money. The CDBG is a helping hand. The situation is everybody can't fill out a 5 to 10 page or 15 page application process. Everybody don't know the right words to say. Everybody might not know what not to put into the paperwork. So the situation is that case managers are available to assist in making sure that the process goes through and hold their hand. Some of them don't even trust themselves going. They don't know who to talk to when they go to the other office. They know us. They definitely know us because we've been there with them. So what happens is that we might have to even walk them into the CD or through. We have done it already.
Yes,
walk the people through the CDBG process.
Yes.
And now they're still waiting. And who do they call? Do they call the CDBG case manager? No. They call the RISE Consortium case manager because that's my friend.
Yeah.
He helped me to get that stove that I needed.
That's right. That's
the
right.
refrigerator that I have not had.
That's right.
And believe me, I know what it is like to not have a refrigerator and a stove. During Katrina, we lived in the mansion for 3 months. So I think Ms. Banks was saying we slept on the floor a lot. Yeah. So yes, we have clients right now that are sleeping on the floor still.
Yes, and I know we have clients that have been affected by Ike that still need groceries, still need food 2 years after the storm. I know in the Grace Beaumont office, There's no resources out there in the Golden Triangle. So what we've been doing is taking 50 food boxes every month to families. Food boxes? So we have a lot of emotions and feelings, and I know that's not what gets government excited. Quantities of numbers is what they look for. But if you could say last words of encouragement to the case manager that's watching. You know, the rules list was put together so that we would have resources hot, so we could punch the button and get them now and get them to the people. And it's hard for case managers to do the research on the resources at this point because we're moving so rapidly. We have to hurry to shut down. Do you have any encouraging words or anything that would continue to give us hope as we come to the office every day trying to get the people what they need and get them to the resources?
What I tend to say is, is that, we must share. We must collaborate, and we must share. We have to, as a consortium, we have to all help each other. We have to all lend a helping hand. What ICNA might know or might not know, Grace might know.
Yes.
So don't be afraid to call a friend.
That's right.
You know, the beautiful thing about the community festivals, the community resource festivals, was that the most important connection that was to be made was at the tables. That we were supposed to go around to each one of those tables and meet and greet, because we don't know who and what you had to offer. But if I got to your table, just like the clients that came, but if I got to your table, then I would know what you got to offer.
That's right.
And based upon what you have to offer, determine what I can bring back to my client base.
That's right. That's right.
So collaboration is the key.
It is the key.
We have to work together. This thing is, that's I think that's the magic word of 2010 of the new social work dynamic, is working as a team.
Okay, Bilal, can you go ahead and give us your contact information?
Yes, ICNA Relief USA has 2 offices in Galveston, 1719 23rd Street, 1625 23rd Street, and you could reach us at 409-974-4161 or 409-974-4283. All
right, awesome, thank you. Did you guys have a website?
Yes, you can hit us at www.icnarelief.org.
We thank you so much for coming and joining us. We hope that you would continue the great work, but we also want you to know how much we are praying for you and helping you to find your brother-in-law. I don't know about you folks, but that is a wow. I'll say that backwards. Wow. It has to be heartbreaking to go to work every day and you have lost a loved one through a Hurricane Katrina, and now you're working on Ike, and you find peace and you find joy because you're giving a hand up and not a hand out. We heard it first. We heard it live on Disaster Talk. It's the talk in your town. We'll see you next time.